Hey guys, my name's James. We're here today to talk about The Last Argument of Kings, which is the final book in the First Law Trilogy, which means I've completed an entire series of books this year. Who cares? But the fact remains, I don't really often go ahead and read through a whole series all in one go. You might notice if you go back through my channel's history, I reviewed the first book of Ken Liu's Dandelion Dynasty series and haven't read the second one yet. I read the first book of Patrick Rothfuss's Kingkiller Chronicles. I still haven't read the second one yet. And that was a long time, that was over 3 years ago. So the thing with me is that I get kind of burned out on worlds and stuff pretty quickly. So I don't tend to go back to series straight away. And as time goes on, I think this happens to everyone. As time goes on, you sort of fall out of understanding about that world, and you think then oh, you know what, I'd go back, but do I have to reread the last one? And it's all, but the point of this whole ramble is that this series was the exact opposite for me. This series as a whole, this trilogy, really grabbed me by the throat and just pulled me straight through. It destroyed my year-long reading slump. It's just a fantastic set of books. And I mean, really, I think the only thing I can do for an individual video about the third book in a trilogy is to say, spoiler-free, that it's a fantastic end to the series, to this chapter of the series anyway. I know when this came out, I know, a lot of people, I've seen criticism from a lot of people saying, oh, if this was book 3 out of 6, then it'd be great, but because it's just 3, it's not as good. But that argument holds no water now, because now it's book 3 out of 8, I think. 9 and 10 are they're on the way. 9 is coming out this year, so it holds Grok's no argument. In my opinion, that argument now holds no water whatsoever, because this next trilogy is standalone stuff, but it advances the overall timeline of the world, and then the third trilogy, which is now being published, is a direct continuation, it's a sequel series. So I still have so much exciting First Law content to read, and I definitely will be. I mean, now that I've finished the first trilogy, I feel like now is a time to take a break, in case I do just go, my brain melts and I just become bored of it. But there's so much to love in this book. I mean, it takes that tonal promise and this dark, uncompromising world that Joe Abercrombie sets up in the first book and builds upon with the second book. And he follows through with that. Ironically, I've also seen people saying that the ending of this wasn't dark enough. But no, the ending of this book, in terms of the outcomes for the individual characters, is fucking horrible. It might not seem it on the surface, but then when you think about it, you're like, oh shit. So, I mean, spoiler free, I don't know, reviewing third books in trilogy spoiler free is so weird to me, because you can't say much about it in terms of what it's about, because it would spoil the other two books. You can't say any of the plot elements because it's a spoiler, but also people that have read the first two books that would be interested in knowing about the third book, they've already made up their mind whether they're going to read it or not. So really, let's just do more of a discussion. So basically, spoilers from now until the end of the video, essentially. Right, let's talk about individual characters one at a time. Break it up in terms of plot lines. Logan Ninefingers. In the first two books, Logan Ninefingers is built up as this guy who is probably the most sympathetic of the characters. His big flaw, because like all the characters have like a key big flaw about them. His big flaw is that he has this uncontrollable berserker state that is called the Bloody Nine, and it's not clear whether this is like another like an entity that possesses him, or if it's just some sort of madness, or if it's just an excuse that he makes for himself. And this book really it takes that vision in your head of Logan Ninefingers as this guy who's, you know, repenting for his past and trying to find a better way, and it shatters that illusion that you've built. Like, because I basically, whilst reading this book, reading the series, convinced myself, you know, Logan Ninefingers, now he's the good guy. Like, he's done some shady crap in the past, but, you know, he's trying to move past that, and he's got all this wisdom. But no. The thing with Logan in this book is that it really just tears your heart out with just the realization that this person that I'd sort of come to respect in a way is probably one of the worst people in the setting. Like, he has so many opportunities to be a different person, to go on another path, like he says he wants to do, but every time he just falls back into the same bad behaviours. Like, it becomes most apparent, you know, it becomes most apparent after the whole stuff with Bethod is dealt with. The War in the North storyline that has been running since chapter 1 of the Blade itself, you know, that gets wrapped up probably about halfway through the book, and Logan becomes king of the Northmen, and, you know, Dogman and even like Black Dow are like, alright, so we did it, like, good job, let's, you know, start rebuilding, like, let's build a better North like we said we were going to do. And Logan immediately is like, no, we're going to take these guys that have just been through a horrific civil war, we're going to take them south, and we're going to fight the Gurkish now. And everyone's like, what? Huh? We're gonna say we're gonna fight the Gurkish? We're gonna fight the Gurkish? Right, okay. And then so Logan, he takes these guys along, but obviously their heart's not in it, because, you know, it's a war that there's nothing to do with them. They get involved essentially in this war between the Union and the Gurkish, and, you know, people start questioning Logan, and Logan has these like he brooks no argument. Like, he violently asserts his dominance over the other people that are following him, which is counter to everything we know about people from the North, because there's this whole thing of, like, people follow the people they want to follow because there's something about them that makes people want to follow them. But Logan, like for all of his talk, he's worse than Bethod. Like, he's worse. He browbeats and forces people to follow him. You know, like in the early stages of the book, he reunites with obviously like Dogman and everyone, and he's like, oh, you know, Dogman's chief. Thank God, I don't want to be chief anymore. You know, Dogman, you can just take over. I'm happy to follow. But as soon as people start saying, "Hey, Logan, you defeated the Fenris the Feared there. We should, how about being king?" He's like, "Yeah, go on then." Like, duh, he's like, you're like, and by the end, you know, you're just like this guy who has basically been one of the key heroic characters throughout the whole thing. You're just like, man, like, I want someone to put him down. And like, there's like the epilogue of this is fantastic. So the book ends exactly the same way. The Blade itself begins with Logan going over a waterfall off a cliff or whatever, and getting sucked down into the water. And it's great. It's a great bit of callback because it's literally the same paragraph of text. So it's just chef's kisses, like bookends. But like, Logan has a duel with Black Dow, who's teamed up with Calder and Scale, like Bethod's sons, to take out the Bloody Nine. And I can't find fault with that. Like, it's so interesting how, you know, through all of this character development and self-discovery, it gets undermined at that last crucial moment. And like, it changes your whole perception of the story. Like, you're like, Jesus, like, the Bloody Nine is a piece of shit. And like, because you see it from his perspective for so much of it, you're like, well, Calder and Scale, they're definitely like evil, and Bethod is a piece of shit. But it turns out, well, maybe, you know, maybe the fact that they hate Logan is perfectly justified. So that's Logan. You know, Dogman is, I feel like Dogman is sort of, he's kind of underused in this, in the concluding chapter. I think it's probably he gets overshadowed a bit by the fact that Logan Nine Fingers comes back to the north, but we get a lot of, like, he's a perfect contrast to Logan, right? Because with Dogman, you see he's not as philosophical as Logan is. He's not as, you know, he's not as ready to sort of like impart wisdom as Logan is. He's a much more subdued character, but in reality, he's a much more honest character. Like, he is someone who, when he says, "I don't want to fight and lead men and all of this, I just want a quiet life," like, he actually means it. And I think out of everyone, the Dogman is the character who is the least piece of shit. Like, he's a hardened killer who fought in wars for years and everything. But in the grand scheme, like, he's probably one of the better people. Like, he goes along with stuff, but he doesn't, like, when he's leading, he doesn't make decisions that are morally corrupt or anything. Like, he helps the Union because, like, you can say, like, you just want to get back at Bethod for whatever he did, and that's kind of crap reasoning to fight someone. But I mean, Bethod is no saint. Like, he was taken over the north by jackboots. So Dogman, good. He's good. But yeah, like, I feel like I wish he'd had a bit where he could confront Logan more directly. Like, he kind of wimps out a bit and is just like, oh, you know, Logan, maybe you shouldn't be a horrible warrior. You keep saying you're going to be... And then Logan's like, shut the fuck up. And he's like, oh, okay. You know, like, he kind of gets his legs cut out from under him. So I want to see more development with him. I know he's in the sequel trilogy. So I'm looking forward to catching up with him again. Now, we go back to the Union characters. Jezal... Like, if there's one character who has the perfect fucking destruction arc of this character, like, Jezal Dan Luther is the ultimate tragedy of the First Law trilogy. Like, he starts off being so hateable. Like, it's so easy to, like, when I read The Blade itself, I was like, man, Jezal is the biggest piece of shit there is going. Like, he literally has a scene where he's, like, looking in the mirror and he's like, so handsome. Poor people are rubbish. We should get rid of the poor. Like there's a whole thing of that, and you're like, man, this guy. Like, I hope this guy gets his, and it's a testament to proportional response, right? That Jezal gets what is coming to him in the second book, and you're like, okay. Like, he gets what's coming to him, and you get that, like, catharsis of being like, ha, fuck that guy, he got what he deserved, and then he, like, starts growing from it, and he's like, oh man, like, I had that coming to me, like, didn't I? Like, maybe I should be a better person, and then he tries so hard, and then you discover that Baez has been gaslighting him this whole time. It's so good. It's so good. Like, because the whole time, like, it's so subtly done throughout the trilogy as well. Like, in the first book, Baez rigs, like, the contest so Jezal can win. And it's framed in that moment as just Baez being a bit of a quirky cheater because he had a bet with Logan that Jezal would win. And you don't really think much more of it. And then, like, he uses that to allow Jezal to come on this, like, quest with him, and there's a reason given for why Logan and why Pharaoh get to go on this quest with Baez, but he takes Jezal, and everyone's kind of like, I don't know really what this guy is about, because Jezal is not, he's like never seen combat before, he's like a pampered rich boy, like, it's a bit on you, why do we want him? And it turns out, like, and like the whole way along, Baez is like lecturing Jezal about what it means to be a good king and a great ruler of men, and like all these historical figures. And like Jezal is like the whole time, he's like, I don't care about any of this. I'm so bored. I want to go home and have sex with Ardy and just have a good old time being a rich boy. And you're like, well, why? And then, like, when the quest is over, and obviously nothing really comes of it, you know, Jezal is like Jezal just sort of comes back and is like, okay, I guess I'll join the army again. But then it turns out Baez just, like, spread all these rumours about the, like, heroic deeds that Jezal had. And then he, like, pumps up Jezal's ego again, and he, like, convinces him, like, no, Jezal, you're the best, man. You're the best. You should be, like, the grand shit of everything. And he, like, organises a whole peasant rebellion to, so that Jezal can, like, put it down, because Yoru, like, Sulfur, Baez's apprentice, is posing as the leader of this rebellion. And then as soon as Jezal's like, can you stop rebelling? Like, he's just like, yeah, sure. And so Jezal comes back a hero with all this pomp and circumstance around him. And then Baez is like, hey, we should all vote to make him king. He's secretly the bastard son of the king. And like, everyone's like, yeah, cool. Like, the peasants love him. The nobles go for it. Jezal becomes king. Like, it's like fucking everything he ever wanted. And it's the worst thing ever. Because, like, you slowly start to realise, oh, fuck. Like, Baez has been, like, grooming him since book one to become like this puppet ruler. And then right at the end of the book, when Jazal is like, I'm going to fucking stand up for myself. I'm going to protect the common man. Bias just fucking crushes him like a bug. And he's like, no. You don't understand. I set this up from your birth. Like, I bought you as the bastard son of some tavern prostitute. And there are dozens of others that I did the same for. And he's like, I literally only picked you because you looked quite kingly when I met you. Like, fuck. And you're just like, Jesus, man. Like, Baez is the biggest piece of shit. Like, Baez, this is what's great, right? So the reason why I figured this out, the reason why it's difficult to explain what the first law is about in so many words is simply because there's not really an antagonistic force. Like, you can describe the plot of most books by describing the rivalry between the protagonist and the antagonist, because it's generally the interaction between those two that creates the conflict of story. However, with the Blade itself, and therefore the First Law trilogy, there's not really a clear antagonist. It's just sort of like various threats popping up for individual characters. But not here. In the last argument of Kings, the true villain steps forward from the shadows, and it turns out it's the fucking kindly old wizard all along. Like, Baez has never been like a kindly wizard character. He kind of acts that way sometimes, but there's always been a hint of like something sinister going on just underneath the surface of Baez. But now that he's all powerful, forget it, mate. Like, he's the biggest scum. So what happens with Baez in this book is we finally figure out what his like deal is with the seed. You know, we've been hearing about this seed since book 2. He's going on this quest to find it. So he goes into the Tower of the Maker, like the House of the Maker. He goes back in there to find weapons, because, you know, Canadius, he's made all these weapons. The seed was a bust, so he's got to find another way to fight Khalul and his filthy, horrible eater people. So the Gurkish are invading. He's like, shit, this is the time. I'm going to go in there. He finds this, like, super sword called the Divider, which is, like, got half of it is like built in the spirit world, so if you like cut someone with it, it will just like dissolve them, I guess. So he gets this sword, but whilst he's in there with Pharaoh, Pharaoh stumbles upon this random little stone, which turns out to be the seed that he was after all along. And that's when we get the other twist, where Malachus Kai, his current apprentice, who was being really weird in the previous book, and for the first bit of this book as well, reveals himself to not be Malachus Kai after all, but actually to be Ptolemy, which is the daughter of the Maker that Baez murdered. Okay, so she's like a spectral wraith who has appeared unbeknownst to us several times in the series already. We just didn't know who it was until now. It turns out she killed Malachus Kai back in book 1. Like, so much of what's great about this series is that there's so many things that have clearly been thought out so far ahead of time and have just been seeded in subtly, so that like it's there kind of in the back of your mind, so nothing like comes out of nowhere when it's revealed. But it's also done in such a way that you're not actively thinking about these things. Like the weird, mutilated, half-eaten body that Glokta found way back in book 1. It's sort of like hand-waved at the time. Like, Superior Goyle is like, no, clearly it was wolves that ate this body. And you kind of like know that that's bullshit. And Glokta knows that it's bullshit. But it doesn't come up again in book 2. And you're just like, well, you kind of forget about it, and then suddenly you realise that body was Malachus Kai, and this evil demon spirit has been travelling with Baez all along to get revenge. So there's a fight in the House of the Maker, which ends up with Yulwei getting trapped in there, which is like wasn't the best thing. It was a little bit convenient, to be honest, that they just sort of were able to trap Ptolemy in. But again, it's a theme of this book that the people don't get what they deserve. Like, Ptolemy really probably does deserve revenge on Baez, and Baez definitely doesn't deserve to escape from that. So I guess it kind of works, but it was kind of a waste, I think, of all that build-up. So that's like a little criticism, but it's not a huge thing in the overall scheme of things. So what happens then is that Baez starts, like, he's like, yes, I have the seed now. And he, like, orders this construction of this, like, ritual circle. And we get these, again, like, we get these really subtle hints of, like, because Pharaoh runs with the seed through the city because they didn't bring the box with them, right? The seed needs to be contained in. So she, like, runs through the city with this seed because she's the only one that can hold it because she's got demon blood. So she runs through the city with it, and then we get like a little wee subtle mention of some people started coming down with some weird wasting disease where their hair and teeth started falling out and they started being ill. And if you pay attention, they're describing people that Pharaoh ran past with the seed, which is all set up for when Baez, like, unleashes his master plan, right? He lures all of the eaters in, along with Mamun, the first apprentice to Khalul. He lures them all into the city, and then he blows them the fuck up with the seed. Like, he channels all this magic through the seed. It's more power in one place than we've seen anywhere else. Literally, he's leveling buildings. He's chopping people into bits. He's just splatting everyone, throwing just holes in the walls. Like, he just goes absolutely berserk with power. He starts fucking laughing to himself. He's just self-aggrandizing. He's the biggest fucking arsehole. And he wrecks the whole city. And this is where you start to realise, oh shit, like, everything in this whole trilogy was leading to this moment. Like, we hear in the beginning of the Blade itself that Baez helped Bethod conquer the north. Why would he do such a thing? Arguably to make Bethod a puppet king, but probably because Bethod would start a war with the Union, which would lead the Union to fucking off to the north, which would leave them open as perfect bait for Baez to trap Khalul into a war there. Like, as soon as Bethod started this war, Baez shows up in Adua. It's the perfect bait. The Gurkish attack Adua, just as Baez planned that they would. They breach the city, as Baez knew that they would, because the army isn't there now, because Baez's plan has led them away, and he blows them the fuck up with the seed. Oh shit. So that's like a real oh shit moment. And then, unfortunately, rip to our dear Colin West. He doesn't get killed in the magic explosion, but he's amongst the wounded. And, like, this wasting shit that has gone on because of the seed is just affected so many people now, including Colin West. It is not stated explicitly if West dies or not, but he definitely does. Like, he definitely does. like his hair starts falling out, he starts losing teeth. It's essentially radiation. Like, Baez essentially nuked the middle of the city, and now there's radioactive sickness everywhere. Damn, man. Like, it's a bad end for West, too. Like, West becomes Lord Marshal after Lord Marshal Burr dies. And he... Like, West has his faults as a person. Obviously, like, he beat his sister badly. He's got a rage issue. He murdered the prince, but the prince was kind of a prick. And, like... I think West is one of those characters that, like, generally speaking, is on the more heroic end of the spectrum. He's definitely made some bad mistakes along the way, but he's one of those characters that I think is absolutely not above redemption, like, beyond redemption in this series. And, of course, he's the one who's going to get fucking waste diseased to death. Jesus, like, it's a horrible, like, and people are like have been saying, like, oh, it's not horrible, it's not that dark an ending because most of the main characters survived. Yeah, okay, like, pretty much all of the POV characters do come out of this alive, but Jezal is a powerless puppet king whose entire life has been a lie. Glocta, we'll get to Glocta. Logan Ninefingers, he is like the biggest prick of them all. He's kind of just falls off a cliff again. He's all alone again in the world. Nothing learned, nothing gained. On the run again for his life. Not good for him. West, wasting disease. Almost definitely is dead. A lot of the side characters die. You know, pretty much all of the northern crew dies. Like, Thunderhead is dead. Rudd Three Trees is dead. Forley the Weakest died way early on. Harding Grim dies too, fighting like fucking eaters. The only one who's left is Dogman and Black Down. Like, what a tragic end for Dogman. Like, he went from having all these friends and just wanted like a happy life to being just alone. Just alone now. Have fun, Dogman. Guess you won't, but fuck. So yeah, like, people saying that this wasn't a dark enough ending. I think you've been too spoiled by Game of Thrones and like Song of Ice and Fire, where a lot of like main characters die. Like, oh, isn't it shocking? They're dead. Like, death is oftentimes the easier way out of these horrible universes. There are much worse fates than death, let's put it that way. So let's talk about Glocta. On the surface, Glocta's story, he comes out on top. But ultimately, no. I mean, Glocta has been indebted to Valent and Bulk, the bank, since they bailed him out of in the siege of Dagoska, basically. He goes on this, like, he basically starts the book trying to rig the election for the king in the Archlector Salt's favour. And Salt is like, oh yeah, you got to do it, or I'll fucking kill you. Because that's just the sort of job he's in. And then obviously Valent and Bulk show up through their like representative, and they say to him, hey, Glocta, you better, investigate the Archlector now, or we'll kill you. So he's like caught between these two fucking hard places, and God bless her, R.D. West like puts the idea in his head of how to get out of this, which would be go to a third guy who's more powerful than both of them that won't try and have you killed, and lean on them for help. And he does, and he tries this, only to ultimately get fucked over again. He goes to Morovia, the High Justice, and Morovia's like, well, get evidence against Salt. And then, you know, like, I'll help you out, I'll protect you. And it's like, okay, so Glockter's now got cards on the table. He kind of knows what's going on. And then he he has the leftover money from the Siege of Dagosca. So he rehires Nikimo Koska and his mercenaries from Book 2 to just essentially be his henchmen. And then Glockter gets betrayed by Practical Severard and Practical Frost, these two like henchmen lackeys that he's had since the first one. The closest thing he really has come to friends in is the last decade of his miserable life. And they both betray him for different reasons. Like, Severard betrayed him to Valiant and Bulk because he had debts to pay too, and Frost betrayed him to the Archlector because we never learn exactly why, but I guess he's just a loyal little boy. So he ends up, both of his, essentially his best friends are dead. And then he captures Salt. He becomes the Archlector. So one of the things that's a bit fucking weird is that, like, Salt is revealed to be, like, doing demonology and trying to summon demons. It makes very little sense. It kind of comes out of nowhere, but when you look back on it, there are like some seeds planted for it, but I don't think it was quite strong enough. Like, I feel like that it wasn't an arse pull. Like, I feel like this was always the plan from the beginning of the series, but probably could have just been strung in a little bit better in the beginning, that like Salt was up to something in terms of magic and stuff. So Salt tries to summon demons to kill Baez. Okay, so he tries to do that, but Glockter fucks it up for him. Like, he comes in and is like, no doing that, and like Koska fucking throws a knife through this guy's head. So Salt gets put in jail. Glockter becomes the Archlector. And then it's revealed that Baez, our good friend Baez, turns out he's behind Valiant and Bulk the whole time. And that makes you wonder, like, if his plan was to get the Gurkish to invade the Union, why did he fund Glockter, like, again in Dagosca? And the best reason I can think for that is because he needed time. Like, at the time that all that was going on, Baez was literally like, he was like going from one end of the world to the other to get the seed. So he obviously just needed Glockter to hold them off in Dagosca until he could sort that out and get back, which makes perfect sense. I mean, as far as theories go, it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, so Glockter becomes the Archlector, and you would think, like, this is it, like, he's got the happy ending, but he's still indebted to Valiant and Bulk, and Baez makes it incredibly clear, you know, you're going to be doing what I tell you. Now, he tells Jazal, you will do what Glockter tells you to do, and Glockter will do what I tell him to do. It's like, oh my god. Like, everyone is a puppet to this fucker now. So Glockter ends up marrying Ardy as well. So Ardy West, like, starts a proper love affair with Jazal when he comes back from his trip. And she ends up getting pregnant with his baby, but because now he's the king, she's in danger, basically. So Glockter marries her to protect her, basically, and he's going to raise the child as his own. And you get the impression that even though the pair of them, like, they kind of enjoy a bit of verbal sparring with each other, you do get the impression that they don't really like each other all that much. Like, Glockter, I definitely think doesn't really respect Ardy that much as a person. and obviously he's just full of self-loathing still. So they're kind of like now just shackled together in this weird, essentially loveless marriage. It's pretty weird, big stuff for him. So like, he like gets a nice moment because like he hates Giselle as well, and Giselle hates him. So he like gets together with Giselle and is like, look, we both work for our mutual friend, but we don't want to give him a reason to ever come back here. And he says to him, look, if we're clever about it and we do it patiently, maybe we can do some good, but we have to be very careful not to bring our mutual friend back. So that's essentially it. I mean, the only other character is Pharaoh Malgin, and for Pharaoh, I mean, she's been the weakest character through the whole trilogy, and her ending is not really different in that way. She, after Baez uses the seed, she kind of like goes nuts and starts hearing demonic voices, and gets imbued with like these powers. Mamun comes and visits her and like tries to kill her for some reason. I think it's just because he is bitter about the seed thing. So he tries to kill her, but she just like fucking offs him super easily. And now she's got like superpowers or whatever. Okay. So then like she just fucks off back to the south to go and get revenge. Like the ultimate theme of this book, if I was going to put a thesis statement stamp on it, it'd be like, it's about ambition. It's about chasing your desires and what the cost of chasing your desires and the cost of achieving your goals. Basically, everyone who tries to achieve their goals through ruthless and selfish means. And even though all of them achieve their goals, all of them are worse off for it. Like, Glocta is now the most powerful man in the kingdom. And his ambition was, like, just to, like, you know, find the truth behind things or whatever. And get back to a sense of normalcy. And to have no... Like, Glocta's basically, his main ambition was to free himself from being trapped by these two powerful masters. And he ends up becoming the most powerful man going in the city of Adua, but he's still now got the most powerful, horrible master of all of them in Baez. Giselle always dreamed of being worshipped by everyone because he's an ambitious piece of shit, and now he's a king and everyone has to bow to him, but he's got no power. And he knows that it's all a lie, and that self-doubt will eat at him for the rest of his life. You know, Logan Ninefingers, he wanted to give up a life of horrible violence, and to do it, he went down a road of horrible violence and can never escape, basically. It's dark. It's dark, you guys. It is a dark, dark ending for a dark, dark trilogy, and I loved every second of it. So that's it. Spoilers over. Thank you for watching this super long discussion of The Last Argument of Kings and kind of the First Law trilogy in general. That wraps that up for now. We're definitely going to be diving back into this world before too long. Next week, though, I think we're going to be doing talk about Rage of Dragons. Rage of Dragons by Evan Winters? It's Winter or Winters? I'm not sure. We'll figure it out for next time. Thanks, though, for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, all the rest of that stuff. Tell me what you thought about The Last Argument of Kings, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.